Welcome to week 13. Only 2 weeks away from the Townsville Triathlon and things are going really well. Make sure you hang around for the update video on my times. 3 new personal bests this week, so make sure you see that. Also this week we're going to get in touch with my inner self and learn a little bit about who I am, because it became apparent I haven't really shared much about me personally in this video series. So hang around till the end. Don't forget to click subscribe and like the video, and make sure you share with your friends. Enjoy. Welcome to my journey. We're going to take this and train it to compete in this. Yes, you heard right. This fat, unfit, middle-aged man is going to compete in the Cairns Ironman Triathlon 2024. That's a 3.8k swim, 180k bike ride, and a 42k run. Well, hopefully run. Starting 60 weeks out, you can follow me and see if I've got what it takes to make it all the way. Every week we'll have a new episode. You can see the highs and lows, all the tears, all the blood, all the sweat, and there'll be lots of sweat. I hope you join me and enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you do. We'll see you soon. Oh, and make sure if you see me out on the trail, say hi, give me some encouragement, or something like that. I can run 10Ks. 10Ks. 10. 10,000 meters. 3 months took me to go from run 200 meters to now I can run 10Ks. It's quite amazing. So I thought this week we might go a bit deeper into who is Shayne Connolly. So because it occurred to me after my wife told me that I really haven't, I mean, I've kind of talked about why, how I got here, that kind of stuff, but I haven't really delved into who I am. And it occurred to me after being pointed out to me that I haven't even told people my actual name. So obviously you can do a bit of digging and you'll figure out who I am. But anyway, so who is Shayne Connolly? So I guess it's hard to put into a short window of who I am, but I guess first and foremost I'm a product of my family. I was born in Mildura in Victoria, Australia. We lived an hour out of town in the middle of nowhere for a long time when I was young, until I was 12 I think, around that age, and then we moved into the big metropolis of Mildura, and that was a shock to, well, the whole family, no doubt. And I guess the outcome of that was that we went to a school when I was in primary school that was like 28 people in total for all 7 grades or 6 grades. Then moved into town to a much bigger school, and that had its own issues. Obviously everyone goes through those kind of things. I think as a teenager, as a child, I don't feel like it had any long-lasting effects on me other than the normal things that teenagers go through. There were different, I was bullied, I bullied people. I think it was just what I would consider to be normal. You don't know who you are as a teenager, you don't know what you're about, you don't know anything about life, and so you do the best you can given the circumstances that you're in. And so I don't really I don't carry any baggage around really, other than the fact that I think for me, I know some people come out of high school, with lifelong friends. For me, that really wasn't the case. I mean, I wasn't that I wasn't friends with people at high school, but that whole lifelong friendship thing, that really didn't happen for me. My lifelong friend I met well and truly before school. So yeah, anyway, that was my teenage years, and then I went off to university, where I did a degree in computing at Ballarat, which was a very cold place to be at university, but I had a great time doing that. Probably too good a time, all truth be told. But that was a good 3 years of my life. I enjoyed university, finding myself, figuring out more about who I was, partying. And after that, I went on to I took a job. I was headhunted really, because that was back in the mid-90s when computing was just becoming a thing, for a job in Sydney. And yeah, that was when I really started to learn about life. Lots of stories I could tell you about that, but like all the things that have happened to me in my life, good, bad or indifferent, are all things that I've learned from. So I don't think of them as bad. Like some people will label good, bad through their life, and for me it's just learning. Whether I had to learn something the hard way or it happened easily is kind of irrelevant really, because that's what life is. It's just a big learning curve, and sometimes you learn things quick and easy, and other times hard and slow, and a whole range of mixes in between. So I don't really think about those things in good and bad terms, or at least I try not to. I think sometimes you get stuck in things, but it was a lot of learning. I didn't have a good base to draw on when it came to the real world, which most of us don't when we hit the real world. So anyway, after some weird experiences in my first job where, in my infinite wisdom of being 21 or 20, I thought I was worth a lot more money. Well, in my defense, I was being hired out at, let's say $80 or $90 an hour, and I was making $20 an hour. Now I run a business, I understand why that has to happen sometimes, but I struggled with finding my place, in that world where, anyway, let's move past that, because that's a whole other story in itself. So anyway, after, I don't know how long I'd been working for, I'd really decided that I just wanted to travel. Like, I'd always liked the idea of traveling, and never really, I always just assumed that I would. But I got it in my head to do a working holiday trip to the UK. So I packed up my life and shot off to the UK, which was an amazing experience, and I would highly recommend to anybody doing something like that, because it really broadens your horizons. If you don't get outside of your little bubble that you live in, then you're never going to understand how big and wide and amazing the world is. So that was really an amazing experience. Didn't do my body any good, because I did a lot of time drinking, having a good time in the UK. Made a heap of money, spent a heap of money, came back through the US. This is a very conjoined story, like a shortened version of the story. There's a lot more to this than what I'm putting out here, let me know if you want a full detailed history of my life, but this is the short version. Anyway, had a great time in the UK, spent 5 months spending the last of my money coming back through the US, traveling as well. think I saw about 20 countries, 18 countries or something while I was living in the UK. I did a little bit of, nowhere near as much travel as I should have done in hindsight, but had a great time. Come back to Australia, didn't really know what to do with myself. Kind of floundered around, I would say, for the next, I don't know, let's call it 7 years, 6, 7 years, maybe 8. I'm not exact on the timelines here, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was still doing IT, wasn't really prepared to go next level and go back and do an MBA or something. And I guess the big thing for me was that I spent a bit of time back in Sydney and a bit of time in Brisbane, but I didn't want to live in a big city. It wasn't where I saw my future, I guess. Spent some time up in Townsville, where I am now, and bought a house. Didn't feel like my life was going where I wanted it to be, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to change it, I guess. I didn't know what the answer was. So I kind of struggled there for a few years, ended up selling my house to my mate, who still lives in it, ironically, and got out, went back to Mildura and spent some time with my parents, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do. And it was not long after that it was, when I say not long, a couple of years, that I met my wife under most ironic circumstances. I was quitting my job to start my first business, which was concrete resurfacing, a bit different to what I do now. And yeah, anyway, that's a whole other story again. And that's where my life found, I guess, its real meaning. Did I tell you I can run 10Ks? Did you hear that? For me, anyway, it was, my family has always been the center of my world, and this, and finding my life partner was, the next step for me was to be able to have my own family, and it was a jump, it was baptism of fire. And he already had kids from a previous marriage, and yeah, it was a real baptism of fire, but the best kind, like the early years were really hard, for a lot of different reasons. I just started a business which didn't end up being very successful and cost us money. I didn't know what I wanted to do with my life. We instantly had a family, and then it wasn't long after that we got pregnant again, and so Lockie was coming along. So it was a whirlwind period, those first few years together, but it was never, for me, there was never a quitting option. Like, that was just, I knew who I wanted to be with, and whatever it took, that was fine. But we were really broke there for, I don't know, it took us a long time to find our feet as a family. We always knew that we wanted, we both didn't even have to have a conversation, really. We wanted Annie to be a stay-at-home mum, and, that meant that our income options were restricted. And so it sort of, put us behind the 8 ball, I guess, in terms of what other people did. But that was just never a question for us. We wanted to have, we wanted the kids to have one parent around all the time. And that's not that I begrudge what other people choose, but that was our choice. And so, kind of, I guess it's part of the reason why it took us a long time to find our feet financially. And I still, to this day, would never change that. Like, even though we had some difficult times financially, I would never change that, because we have got 4 great kids, and you would never undo that just to make a bit of extra money. You know, I personally wouldn't anyway. And so we sort of again struggled for a while. I didn't, you know, mostly because in terms of work, I didn't want to do IT anymore. That's why I started my own business. And when that didn't work for various reasons, you know, I had to go and get a job, and that was, you know, it was difficult to figure out what I wanted to do. I tried sales for a while, and just didn't, pressure really felt like it nearly killed me, actually. Like I ended up having like heart palpitations, and like the stress of having sales budgets, and the really tough environment that sales is, it didn't suit me. Ironically, ended up starting a business again, which required me to do sales, but it was different. I don't know how to describe it exactly, but so after floundering and struggling for some time, I got into safety, which paid much better. Safety and training space was you know, with my IT background, it was a easy transition, really, because I'd always been training people, I'd always been talking to people, and supporting people, and so safety just sort of became an easy transition for me, really. And I enjoyed the helping people part. The only trouble was that the good money was fly in, fly out money, and so we, you know, gave that a go for a while, but it was just had a horrific downsides. You know, anyone who's done fly in, fly out work before will know that it's not a bed of roses. And so we ended up moving up to Townsville the last time that we lived up here, and I got a great job after doing fly in, fly out, which was 2 weeks on, 1 week off, which was much nicer schedule than what we'd been doing before, with amazing, really amazing amount of money that we were making at that point. We threw that job away because we still, even the 2-in-1 roster just didn't work. Like, it was still having bad side effects of not having the family together. So took what I thought was a great job here in Townsville, paid well, home every night, you know, that was great. And that was when I first started training for the Ironman, through, you know, meeting James, who worked at the same company, and it was great. Things were going well. There were some issues with the job, you know, big multinational company. I didn't agree with everything that they thought, which is always a problem for me. I'm a bit, never been one to keep my mouth shut. So, and then because of those disagreements, I was one of the people on the list when it came to making redundancies. And so, you know, 4 months out from doing that Ironman that time, I was made redundant. And whilst we were in a good financial position compared to historically, it didn't, you know, I couldn't not have a job. And so kind of got stuck again with having to take a fly in, fly out job, which was a good job, again, well paid, but it was in PNG, so I wasn't even in the same country. And so the family decided that they would move back to Mildura, which, you know, my wife's mother was not well at the time, and so it just made sense for us to go back where the rest of the family was and be closer to all of them. So, but, and so I had that contract for like 10 months or something like that, and that again was a difficult time, because I'm flying to PNG and back to Mildura, you know, on a 2-in-1 roster. And so But eventually that, whilst I was doing that, I was thinking about how am I going to get out of this, because I can't, I didn't want to keep doing it, and so we decided, we finished that, we had some money in the bank, and we were back in Mildura with limited job opportunities for me, unless I wanted to do fly in, fly out again. And so we made the decision to have a crack at starting a safety business, and thank God we did. Now, I mean, at the time it was difficult, and almost failed before it began, kind of thing, but and really failed for the first 3 years. I had to take a job selling vacuum cleaners. My wife went back to work because our kids were a bit older by now, and so she could get some part-time work at Coles, and so we did all kinds of stuff to keep the business going because we could see the potential. We liked the way that it fit into our family. So one of the advantages of having a business is you get to dictate your own terms. You might have to work a lot sometimes, but you can go to family things, you can be at the school when you want to, you can set your own schedule. So always liked that aspect of having your own business. And so anyway, we finally hit our straps, I guess, year 5.
I can run 10Ks. 10Ks.
We started to make enough money to actually be able to employ someone, and things have grown from there. And so that's the environment I'm sitting in at the moment, is my office here in our Townsville office. We've got 8 staff, spread all over the country, ironically. We don't need this big office we've got now, but and this year, the thing I guess that triggered the whole, getting my shit together moment was, we in the last 12 months, we really tried to grow the business. I had big grand plans for the business, and we looked like we were on track for that. But then, between the economy and the post-COVID world and a whole range of factors, it just didn't work. We had, I think we got to almost 15 staff at one point, and it was just, it all looked good, and but it wasn't, the sales didn't come, and again, this is one of those things where this is not a point the finger thing for me, or a good or a bad thing. It happened. We tried. We poured a heap of money from the business into trying to grow into a much bigger business, which is what I wanted to do at the time, and didn't work. And we really gave it a crack. Like I didn't leave anything on the table. We poured everything we had into it, but it came to a point where it was like, well, this isn't going to happen, and so we had to pull back from that, and that was at the start of this year, and it was a really difficult time for me because we went a couple of months without paying ourselves in the business. We had to let people go. We had to rework the whole business and make sure that first and foremost, I had to look after my family, to make sure that we were going to be okay. And obviously we're not, we weren't, living in a ditch, but it was important to make sure that that it wasn't going to cause us long-term problems. So we had to restructure things and rejig the whole business. And so we've consolidated down now to our core business. We have a big stream of recurring revenue that we can manage as part of this business, and so we've sort of restructured ourselves to now we don't do safety or any of those things. We're just focused on software solutions for people with our big partner. And that was sort of the business evolution over the years is a big story by itself, and I won't get into all of those details, but right now we have a successful business. We own half of another business as well that's getting itself up and running with someone who used to work for us. And just because I'm apparently not busy enough, we are kicking off another piece of software that we're developing. It's in the first phases of development at the moment. So anyone out there who wants to invest in a startup, please reach out, and happy to have a conversation. So I've got a lot going on in the business. It's been a busy year. It was really tough on my mental and physical health over that period of time, and it was part of the reason why I decided to do something with Beyond Blue and try to raise money and awareness about the mental health of business owners, because whilst for me, I didn't get to that point because I've got my mate who I walk the hill with 3 times a week, although he's been pretty lax lately. I've got a strong family behind me. I've got an amazing wife. I've got a good support structure. And even with all of that, there were times in the last 6 months where it was a struggle to get myself moving. And so the one thing that I didn't have in place, if you saw my Pyramid of Power video, was I wasn't looking after myself physically. And that's sort of one of the things that led me to, I need to get that shit happening. I need to get myself fit and healthy so that, when life deals you, a shit hand, you can dig deep and get through it. And so, whilst we've got through all of the difficulties in the business now, thankfully, with great team that we've got here, and a little bit of luck, it all has worked out. But it really made me think about, where do I see myself? What do I want out of life? Is this the path that I want to go down? Do I want to run a big business? And it made me think about all of those things. And so this week I wanted to go, give people a little bit of who I am, what makes me as a person, and I'm happy to share more of any of those individual pieces. Obviously, it's not a 4-hour documentary for me to dig into all the minute details of my life, but I'm happy to expand on any of those aspects if people want to hear it. I just wanted to give a brief cap of how I've got this far and what my life looks like now. And so this is where I work. I spend all my time here. We do software integration for people, which is a great business. We have customers all around the world, mostly in the health, safety and quality space because of the piece of software that we mostly work with. And it's great. The business is running really well. It's easy to run. It's not particularly stressful most of the time. And that's part of the reason why I've taken the leap and started another piece of software that we're working on as well, because one of the things that I want out of life is to diversify my risk and make sure that I've got multiple things that we can rely on for income and to help, I want to help set my kids up in the future. And so one of my children, or 2 of our kids, work for the business, which is great, and actually do a really great job. So it's not like a benefit program, believe me, they pull their weight. But I'm that's great. I love to be able to help in that respect. I think that's all good and well to say that your kids should make their own way, and they should in a lot of aspects. But if you can help, you should.
I can run 10Ks. 10Ks.
I've got a pretty good life. I'm super happy with my family and my home life. I've got great kids. The business is going well now. After a little hiccup this year, it's funny for me to say that, because 6 months ago, I didn't know that I would be able to say that now. But again, that's life, isn't it? Life doesn't always deal out the cards you're looking for. And
the mark of who you are as a person is how you deal with the cards that you get. And I think that, you know, if I can impart some of that into this YouTube series and help people to see that they can deal with those cards no matter what they are, and you could come out the other side, then that's fantastic. I hope that that's what people get out of this. So there'll be much more of this. I'm trying to share a bit more of who I am on this journey, and hopefully it helps people. Hopefully you can see that, you know, I'm not some amazing special person. I'm just a regular person who wouldn't take no for an answer and doesn't quit when things get hard. And that's all you got to do in life, I think, is keep on keeping on. And obviously it helps when you don't keep making the same mistakes, but you know, that's just called learning. So we'll see you. I will share some more of this, my day-to-day life and more of who I am. And if you want to know more about any of particular parts of my life, please let me know in the comments, and I'm happy to dig deeper into some of those things, because there's some interesting stories there. I just don't want to prattle on forever.
Welcome to this week's data update, and as you can see, things are ticking along quite well. Weight is steadily coming down. We're hitting some good numbers now. Got into the 123s this week, and obviously our ride, I've finally broken through that 1 hour barrier. Got a new PB of 59 minutes, so I was pretty happy about that. New PB on the run, down to 31 and a half minutes. So that's well on track, and I knocked a minute off my best time for a kilometre in the swim. So it's been an epic week for personal bests, so I'm very, very happy with that progress, and let's hope it continues heading into the Townsville Triathlon. Thanks for watching this week. I really appreciate all the support, and I love all the comments that I get, so please keep them up, and feel free to ask me any questions. I'm really happy to be open and answer anything that I can. So don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and make sure you share with your friends. And we'll see you next week when we do a little mini triathlon of our own in preparation for the Townsville Triathlon itself. Have a great week. Thanks for your support.